Sex, drugs, big cars, Papua New Guinea, Peter Dutton. This story has it all. But perhaps most importantly, it'll expose the webs of patronage created by the Liberal Party, our supposed public servants, and prove that they are ultimately facilitated by the highest public office holders in the country. The same office holders that are not only weaponising the spectre of national security in order to desperately hold on to power, but are also using it to help their friends profiteer at the expense of actual Australian security. What I'm essentially saying is the deep state exists, sure, but it's not what you think it is. It's not just a bunch of shady operators in suits, it also includes a bunch of coked up young libs in Queensland. Enjoy. Because this story has everything, you're gonna have to bear with me introducing some new characters to the Friendly Geordies canon. It starts with a little known company called SCD Remanufactured Vehicles. SCD Remanufactured Vehicles is a Queensland based company that specialises in importing big gas guzzling cars from America, remanufacturing them and then selling them to people with inadequacy issues. SCD Vehicles is run by a man by the name of Eddie Coqua. Now, Eddie is your typical Sigma male businessman on his grind set. I mean, he claims to be a future Prime Minister of Australia. That's not a red flag at all. Just a normal, well-adjusted man. Along with running SCD American Vehicles, he runs a multitude of different Sigma hustles, i.e. companies. But they all seem to operate under his main holding company, the aptly titled Boss Capital Holdings. A company that has been donating a fair bit of cash to the Liberal Party recently. Well, maybe not that much when you see that a recent article in The Australian claims that Boss Capital will have turned over $100 million in 2021. An almost unbelievable amount of money. Eddie is married to a woman called Jamie Lee Sorbillo. Her father is a man by the name of Claude Sorbillo, another businessman who runs a company called Brisbane Home Loans, a company that has also donated a significant amount of money to the Queensland LNP. Claude is also friends with Peter Dutton, which, come to think of it, if you're a businessman, being friends with one of Australia's most powerful politicians, a politician who is in control of billions of taxpayer dollars, surely that could come in handy. Now, this is where the story turns incredibly dark incredibly quickly. After Eddie got introduced to Peter Dutton, he somehow convinced Dutton to do him a favour. Something awful. Something blood-curdling, something completely contrary to the national interest. Eddie got Peter Dutton, who at the time was the Home Affairs Minister, to visit his American car warehouse, and then got him to feature in this ad. It's so good that it weakens the position of Scotty from marketing as the top dog of the Liberal Party. Check it. I think we could all agree, that is the best car ad ever made. Peter gonna give it to ya. I guess the song works for Petey. If the it in the song is referring to highly lucrative home affairs contracts, and the ya is incredibly suspicious front companies, and the gone is referring to all of Australia's money. Peter kind of has a history of doing that. Remember the company Paladin? You know, the one that was operating out of a shack on Kangaroo Island, yet still somehow got given $500 million worth of government contracts by Dutton's Department of Home Affairs to run security on the Manus Island Detention Centre in Papua New Guinea? You know, the one that the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea wanted to kick out of the country over corruption allegations? Watch my video about it here for background. Anyway, it's not just Paladin. A lot of other companies exactly like Paladin pop up around Dutton, such as this strange debt-laden company called NKW Holdings. NKW Holdings is a company run by some of the most politically connected figures in Papua New Guinea, which seemingly might be why Dutton's Department of Home Affairs gifted them $82 million in government contracts to provide food and housing at the Manus Island Detention Centre. But just like Paladin, this was another extremely suspect contract, as at the time that Home Affairs gifted NKW Holdings the money, they were on the Bank South Pacific's watch list for unpaid debts. But Dutton fixed that problem alright. As soon as NKW got the contract, leaked emails from the bank show that they stopped worrying about NKW's debts because, quote, Australian Department of Immigration and Border Protection are paying every invoice. I suspect there are some inflated quotations in invoices. Yep. According to their bank manager, NKW, a debt-laden company, was no longer a risk to the bank because the Australian government was uncritically paying their invoices. Ah, yes, the Liberal Party. The party of strong economic managers, just not for Australia, for heavily indebted detention centre contractors. And this is how uncritical Dutton's department was. It would have been cheaper to chuck the asylum seekers that NKW were responsible for housing and feeding into 5-star hotels. On top of that, you could have fed them lobster and caviar every day. We were paying NKW $1,400 per day per refugee. Another leaked email revealed that NKW would lease a campsite from a Papua New Guinean landholder for less than $30,000 a month, but then received $500,000 from the Australian government to allow them access. I could do an entire video on how dodgy NKW is, but this video is going to be long as it is. So how does NKW fit into this story? Well, somehow Eddie Coqua of SCD American Vehicles must have been introduced to Marlon Brunskill, the CEO of NKW Holdings. I wonder if they have any mutual friends. NKW subsequently engaged in some extremely strange transactions with Eddie and SCD. I have a document that appears to show Marlon Brunskill received a $100,000 loan from SCD in June of 2020. I also have screenshots of what is allegedly SCD's Zero account and their transactions with PNG Commercial Vehicles, a company set up by NKW Holdings that appears to supply cars to Papua New Guinea. The reason this is extremely strange is at the time of screenshotting, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of invoices to PNG Commercial Vehicles from SCD were unpaid, and at the time some were almost a year old. Here is seemingly over $300,000 worth of unpaid invoices, I think for cars that were sent to Papua New Guinea. It's been alleged to me that there was a complaint to the Australian Federal Police about the transactions between these two companies. We attempted multiple times to put questions to the AFP, yet they refused to answer any of our questions, stating the AFP has no comment in relation to this matter. At the very least, you have to admit there's something incredibly strange about this car company SCD remanufactured vehicles featuring ads with Dutton and then the same company appearing to do business with another company, NKW Holdings, whose own bank pretty much assessed wouldn't exist without Peter Dutton's department's intervention. The AFP response, or lack thereof, was also strange, as it was also reported that the AFP were in the midst of testing a Dodge car remanufactured by SCD. This is despite Dodge disapproving of the remanufacturing, saying they cannot guarantee the remanufactured car's safety. This was another thing we asked the AFP about, but to no avail. As keep in mind, this could just be Eddie announcing something before it happens in a bizarre self-promotion strategy, as the article also says that the Queensland Police might be testing one of their cars in the future. Yet in a statement to Friendly Geordies, a Queensland Police spokesperson said, the Queensland Police Service fleet has not loaned, tested, cited or procured vehicles from SCD remanufactured vehicles. It's also worth noting how much more professional the Queensland Police media team were in comparison to the AFP, whose non-response will become even more suspicious when you hear that Eddie is also co-director of another business called AusMV Holdings with a guy called Matt Johns, who's an ex-AFP officer. Matt Johns has also helped Eddie before, as just a bit before Peter Dutton sued Shane Bazzi. Remember that? The time Dutton sued someone for defamation over one tweet? Eddie also attempted to sue Twitter for a Twitter user's tweet. Here's the tweet. It was pretty much because the Twitter user tweeted a picture of Eddie wearing a MAGA hat and doing that little circle hand signal. Eddie claimed that was defamatory. The Twitter user was Carrick Ryan, a former AFP agent who worked in counter-terrorism, so Eddie asked Matt if he knew him. This was the response. This guy said some pretty hardcore shit about me. Do you know him, or do you reckon Jez would? I know him. Jez definitely know him. Just ran the terrorism team for the AFP, call him. Some more funny emails I have about the saga appear to be between Eddie and Mitchell Downs. One of Eddie's potential defamation barristers, who Eddie complains to about Liberal Senator Amanda Stoker being afraid to associate with him and also losing customers due to the tweet. Writing, Senator Amanda Stoker's office found these articles and are concerned with any public interaction we may have. Our PNG customer, who'd spent $1.5 million prior to April 2019, just came on board the year before, stopped. In response to the email, the barrister responds with, "I'm used to boxing on with the left. Is it just me, or does anyone else think that that's incredibly improper and disrespectful to the courts and the taxpayer for a barrister to effectively admit he's using the courts to pursue what in the end is an ideological political battle and using defamation as a proxy? It's especially wrong when your potential client even boasts about how the same negative comments and Peter Dutton have helped them bring in record business."
Well, what can we say? We had a record day for sales today. Thank you everyone for commenting. Appreciate all the comments, especially from the snowflakes. Keep commenting and make us go viral. P.S. The election proved that you are the minority. The Libs support anyone that has a go. Most of our customers are retirees that would have lost a lot of money if the Labour Party got in. We are very thankful that Australians voted for the LNP.
At least you can't accuse Eddie of not being grateful to Peter for all the favours he's done for them. He's clearly very publicly thankful, but I guess also privately, as this email shows, he appears to have helped out Dutton in the 2019 election. Eddie has also directly lobbied Peter Dutton's office to give SCD American Vehicles essential business status. And from the looks of the email I have, Peter's office was quite accommodating. But back to some more LNP connections. For the actual lawsuit against Twitter, Eddie used a solicitor called Jamie Whitehead. The interesting thing about Jamie is that he's a former Queensland Police officer and a former prosecutor for the New South Wales Police. It's been alleged to be that Jamie Whitehead was a campaign manager for a bunch of LNP figures, including a guy by the name of Ryan Shaw. Ryan Shaw, who's an ex-sniper and Afghanistan veteran, was in the 2020 Queensland election, the LNP candidate for Nudgee, and I have emails to show that at the very least Jamie was using his law firm to help Ryan's campaign. Ryan Shaw is now the federal LNP candidate for the marginal Queensland seat of Lilly. But more importantly, Ryan has held various roles in Eddie's business ventures with vague titles such as Program Officer and Strategy Manager. So we have an ex-AFP agent, ex-cop/prosecutor and ex-soldier, most with strange ties to the Liberal Party, all on Eddie Coqua's payroll, and I'm not even listing all the military/cop ties I've heard about. The reason I find this fact incredibly interesting is because, well, I had a joke here, but I think a picture tells 1,000 words. Here's Eddie at SCD headquarters with what appears to be some lines of white powder in front of him. Here it is from another angle. Here's another angle with what appears to be a man attempting to smell the desk using some sort of tubular device. Here's that same bench with no one sitting at it. Oh, the powder seems to have diminished greatly. Oh, maybe that's what they were doing with the tubular device. They were cleaning it up. Here's what I'm told is Eddie's bathroom. Damn, this white powder's everywhere. Maybe they're trekking in the beautiful white Queensland sand. Get a vacuum cleaner, guys. It's so much better for removing mess than that small tube you had. You can clearly afford it. And just for good measure, here are some more pics of that same bench. These pics just might explain Eddie's completely manic whiteboard.
Upstairs boss. What's that from the 70k? Restructure KJ. Here and now, start day here. Start day. Sorry, duty refund. Eddie Dutton.
I've been told that's a picture of some of Eddie's scribblings on a, guess his ideas board. I wonder what Dutton ATS means. I think it's something to do with the federal grant program called the Automotive Transformation Scheme, which is a little scary because it's been alleged to me that engineers at SCD will work under the influence of drugs, and I've heard of instances of employees walking in on others doing coke in the bathroom before work. Now, it's also alleged to me that along with partaking in a certain white powder, Eddie also sells it. Now, to be clear, I'm not particularly interested in pinning drug use on individuals. That's a personal choice, but if true, I am concerned with it allegedly being this close to the AFP Liberal Party and remanufacturing vehicles. I don't know the scale it's sold on. It could be minuscule, it might not even be true. But I do have someone claiming directly to us to have bought a few $100s worth from Eddie, which I don't know, at the very least might help fund the sex worker parties that take place at SCD vehicles. Sorry to get all eyes wide shut on you, but yeah, they have eyes wide shut parties. The only difference being, instead of that spooky music playing as you walk through an ornate mansion seeing elites from politics, business and entertainment in Venetian masks supermodels, it's on the floor of a car dealership with, I'm guessing, either Triple M or Hardstyle playing. And no masks, but I guess there's elites from the Queensland LNP that could be in it at least. Here's a picture from one. I wonder if Ryan Shaw, the current LNP candidate for Lily, has attended any of these sex worker parties or any parties like this. We put questions to him, he didn't answer, but let's be honest, even if he had attended, they'd be nowhere near the most red-hot events he's been to, as he's hosted dinners attended by Barnaby Joyce.
You guys want to go shooting after this?
The Liberal and National Party connections to these people and businesses are extremely suspect. I've just scratched the surface. The former LNP leader of Queensland, Deb Frecklington, has also appeared in SCD's videos and spruiked them on her Facebook page. We know that LNP Senator Amanda Stoker's office has been in contact with them. Just look at Eddie's Instagram and you'll see a who's who of Liberal pollies. Here's him with Julie Bishop.
I will fly on Air Force One in the future. Hashtag Coqua 2030. Hashtag Eddie for Prime Minister 2030.
Well, that picture of Obama exists, so anything's possible, eh, Eddie? This guy's either the most delusional car salesman on earth or Andy Kaufman with no audience. Maybe the greatest comedian of our time, maybe. But it's his relationship with Peter Dutton that raises serious questions. Peter Dutton is Australia's Defence Minister, and to have him associated with people in his own party potentially this connected to illicit substances is extremely concerning. I believe Dutton's department's rewarding of contracts on Manus Island needs its own inquiry, as there are legitimate national security concerns if the Australian government isn't choosing contractors on merit. The questions raised by NKW's potential domestic connections only adds to that concern. I mean, for f***'s sake, if Dutton, the tough-on-crime ex-cop defence minister, is appearing in videos with this guy, I don't know if you can trust the Liberals on anything. We attempted multiple times to put these questions to Peter Dutton. We confirmed that Dutton had received the questions, yet as of filming, we haven't received a response. As mentioned earlier, we attempted multiple times to put various questions to the AFP about potential investigations surrounding these companies, ex-AFP employees and their connections to these companies, and if the AFP did indeed, as claimed in the press, test vehicles from SCD with an intention to enter a commercial arrangement with them. The refusal to answer any questions by the AFP is extremely disappointing and concerning, as these are public interest inquiries about your tax dollars potentially being given to this guy by the very agency meant to stop this shit. We also attempted to put questions to Marlon Brunskill of NKW Holdings, yet as of filming this received no response. We attempted multiple times to put questions to LNP candidate for Lily, Ryan Shaw, and my producer Christo even had a brief phone call with him, yet we received no response. Side note, just hours after our lengthy deadline had passed to answer these questions, and we'd already filmed this video, we got a response from the LNP on behalf of Liberal candidate Ryan Shaw. This is it. Pause it if you want to read it in full. He's withdrawn. He's no longer the candidate. Ryan then made a Facebook post announcing his withdrawal as the LNP candidate for Lily. I just find it very strange that the LNP claimed that Ryan has been considering withdrawing for weeks because he was actively campaigning just the day before we received this email, and he's been campaigning vigorously for over a year. We attempted to put questions to Scott Morrison and Queensland LNP President Lawrence Springborg about whether they were aware of any allegations against their candidate for Lily, but received no response. We attempted multiple times to put questions to Eddie Coqua. We received a response from his lawyer requesting us to direct correspondence to him, and then after resending the questions received a legal threat. I mean, it's better treatment than others received who've alleged they've been intimidated by SCD employees, including Eddie and Liberal candidate Ryan Shaw. It seems the strange case of Peter Dutton, SCD, remanufactured vehicles, the AFP, a bit of white powder, a federal Liberal candidate, and Papua New Guinea is yet to be solved. But at the very least, if you're in Dutton's electorate of Dixon, you can now let everyone know about the company, or I guess companies, their local member keeps. Like and subscribe, and if you can, sign up to our Patreon, as investigations like these take a lot of time, effort and risk. We will be able to complete more of them if we have more money. Plus, we're actually upgrading our Patreon to give patrons some decent benefits like exclusive content, which may or may not include more info about this story. So come on, Eddie's lawyer, sub to my Patreon. You can't sue me over anything in this vid, but maybe if you give me $10 a week, I'll give you something back.
Please share and comment below. Comment.